So again, every one of these names is connected to qualities, to characteristics, to distinctives, to history. We just heard from Marcus and his legacy and the journey of seeing and finding Jesus. Well, what I want to do with you tonight in the next few minutes, I want to take you back into what you have done and learned throughout the last basically 3 days together. And we began by simply introducing the God who is one in nature and how many persons? 3 persons. We are focusing an entire week on the second person of the 3 persons. His name is Jesus. And we said that this Jesus is the one that is being, that is created, that was made, that is the God who has always existed, is the God that has no beginning and no end, and that there is no one who created Jesus. Jesus has always existed, and he is in the very nature God. And this is the one that had equality with God, and he did not consider none of those attributes, none of those distinctiveness, because once again, he is the one that is God himself, but also has distinctives within him. 3 persons. So we have the Father, the Son, and Holy Spirit. I gave you my disclaimer from day 1, which implies Sunday, that every single analogy or illustration that we try to convey, to present to you, falls short of understanding this entire concept of the Trinity. So I'm just trying to be fair to the conversation, because on verse 2, and this is what we look at on day 2, which for us was Tuesday, we discovered that the second person of the 3 persons, one in essence, 3 persons, second person of the 3 persons, is the one that has how many natures? So here's what I want you to remind yourself and think about it. The one single essence with 3 persons, within the one single essence, one God, 3 persons. The second person, I'm just going to use the first, second, and third. The second person decided to come into this world, and the word is incarnated. He made himself, he brought himself into a place of nothingness by taking the very nature of a servant. And in the condition of servant, he was made into human likeness. So here's what we said from day 1, is that this Jesus, this one person, now decided to add to his one single nature of being God himself, the pretzel, he added a second nature. And the second nature is the nature of becoming nothing. The second nature is the one that he became a servant, and obviously he became human. In the implication, in the understanding of this, is that, and again, I'm just thinking of Marcus right now, and he's the one that came to my mind, because when you listen to the testimony of an individual, when you listen to someone sharing how their lives were transformed, does not imply that the individual became the 2.0 version of who he was before. So let me rephrase that to you. When you look at Jesus making himself nothing, when you look at Jesus making himself a servant, and you look at Jesus being made in human likeness, does not imply that Jesus was simply Adam 2.0. Jesus, the Bible describes him as a second Adam, but it's not just an improvement of the first Adam, which was back in Genesis, and now you have a second Adam as an improvement. Jesus is a total different deal. And one of the reasons why Jesus is different from the first Adam is exactly, and we explained this before, is because Adam tried to make himself, what's the opposite of nothing? Something. Remember the story, the serpent, the temptation that if you eat from this fruit, you will be like God. So in this case, the one who was God already decided to become nothing, versus the one who was a human tried to become something. See, the one that was literally in charge, and he is the owner, he is the Lord of everything, he decided to become a servant. The servant, which is the first Adam, tried to become the master. Everybody tracking what I'm saying? I just want you to understand that Jesus is not Adam 2.0. Marcus, after meeting Jesus, he did not become a better version of himself. Marcus became a brand new person. I don't know if anybody is following what I'm saying in here. Because the challenge for many of us is that we're just trying to get a 2.3, 2.7 version of ourselves. And just to be fair, trust me, most people around you, beginning with your wife, if you're married, maybe to your parents, if you're a child, they will benefit if you get an improvement of yourself. But improvements of yourself will never get you into heaven. Does that make sense? It is the regeneration. You have to become a brand new person. If you go back to the book of John, and some of you know this verse, John 3:16, for God so loved the world. See, the verses prior is the conversation between Jesus and a guy by the name of Nicodemus, and he thinks that what he needs to do is simply get from 1.0 to 2.0 like your iPhone. Just going from, iPhone 5, iPhone 6, iPhone 7, and some of you are lucky to have an iPhone 8. That's not the gospel. The gospel implies that this Jesus literally created a brand new experience that eventually Jesus, look at me for a second, guys. Jesus is what we were supposed to be from the very beginning. Why? Because the first Adam, back in Genesis, he was only created in the condition of innocence prior to sinning. Jesus, beginning with this process, he allows us not only to be guilt-free. Jesus, when you pray for forgiveness based on the work of Jesus, he gives it to you. But being forgiven is never enough. Being forgiven is it's not enough for you to be like the first Adam. Forgiveness through the work of Jesus is the preamble. It's like the area outside. It's like the lobby so you can get into the real place. And the real place or the sanctuary in your life is not simply to be forgiven. You need to be made righteous. You need to be now clothed with the life and literally the person of Jesus. So this is what we said from the beginning. Now let me go into day 3 because here's how we're gonna finish. We're gonna pray and then we're gonna go into German time. The purpose of this whole and entire deal and why you guys are here tonight is because God from the beginning, and when I say God is one God, 3 persons. God from the beginning had, God from the beginning has, and God from the beginning will fulfill His eternal plan. If God does not fulfill His purposes, He is not God. And you are wasting your time, I'm wasting my breath, and we should just go and have the fellowship otherwise. But because God is sovereign, because His name that is above every name is a 4-letter word, and it's the word L-O-R-D. He is Lord. His plan and His purposes always come through. So from the beginning, what was the plan? Glad you asked. That's exactly where I was going. See, the plan is that in being found in appearance as a man, here's the plan. The plan was that Jesus, that He is Jesus, the second person of the 3 persons, the second person, the one that added humanity to His divinity, the one that been in the very essence, in human, He became human likeness, the one that is God Himself, He added humanity, is the one that what did He do? He humbled Himself. So please listen, because this is huge. This is important. This is important. Because Jesus is not Adam 2.0. And we do not want you to live this place becoming simply a 2.2, 2.3 version of yourself. Don't kid yourself. You don't need to be just better. You need to be born again. You need to be a brand new person. That implies, here's what it implies. That if Jesus humbled Himself, is so you, through Jesus, do what? Humble yourself. Anybody that is going through life with a 2.0, 3.0, just improving yourself, is the person that is exactly the opposite to humility. Is the person that looks at others and says, I'm better than you because I'm a 4.0, 4.3. And you're adding more into your prestige, into your desires, into your accomplishments. And some of you are very gifted, and I'm glad you are driven and you have objectives and you're not like other losers or whatever those things are. I mean, come on, we can talk about this all day long. But the bottom line is that if you are open to embrace the eternal plan of God. Now listen. I am not talking about the eternal plan of life, the eternal plan of God for your life. I don't believe that exists. I believe there is an eternal plan, and you and I adapt to it. Anybody tracking what I'm saying? I think we're so self-centered that we typically make the mistake to pray and say, what is God's plan for my life? And I like you. I'm sure your life is a lot of fun and your lives look really cool, but the issue is not about your life. The issue is about His plan, whatever that plan is. And if you're wondering what the plan is for your marriage, for your parenting skills, for your future, for your schooling, for your finances, and especially for eternity, is that you and I will become, say it, will become humble. So if you want to know if you're going to heaven, you need to embrace the humble one so you can become humble, not when you get to heaven, but today. Anybody tracking? That's what you do. So this implies that throughout history, Israel as a nation, Old Testament, were supposed to be humble, failed to the point. Anybody tracking? Read the Old Testament. A bunch of the opposite of humility, a lot of pride, a lot of this self-driven, a lot of just love self. Not good. Then Israel fails, and then the humble one shows up, which is Jesus of Nazareth. And he, in his humility, becomes what Isaiah 53 describes, the suffering servant. Becomes the man that was meek, and he was loving. Now, he was no doormat. He wasn't just a man that was a people pleaser. He simply fulfilled the purpose. So after his 33 years on earth, showing and modeling humility, he expects for, not for you, but for you all. This is why you cannot do this on your own. If you're sitting in this place and you try to do this on your own, you're going to fall into the trap to simply think that what you need is a better version of you. A better marriage, a better kid. No, see, you don't need that. What you need is you need the humble one, so you understand that his humility is given to you. Now watch this, please. His humility given to you because he humbled himself and he became, what happens with humility is connected to obedience. Obedience. And this obedience is the, okay, so I wish I had more time to explain this. This humility is a transformation of your heart. No more of me, now I need him in me. That's internal, and we're going to pray, so hopefully you will embrace this humility in your heart. And you are willing to do what Marcus did and simply say, I surrender to you, you come and become, watch this, you become the Lord, the Lord of my life. You are the husband, you are the chief in command, you are the boss, you are the one in charge. Now, once that happens internally, watch this. Now you move into external, from internal to external. So it's a holistic view of life. It's not a separation that is you praying to God and then living like there is no God, you feeling that you belong to God, but then you have all this fear and questions. It's a holistic view that now is regarding obedience. Now watch this. This coming Sunday is the 18th. The following Sunday is the 25th. And the 1st of April, which is in 3 Sundays, we are going to offer you an opportunity to tangibly manifest this obedience. Because based on the scriptures, this obedience begins by joining Jesus in his obedience. And Jesus was obedient to the Father that he went to a cross. And being on this situation, condition, experience of the cross, he's placed, because he dies, he's placed on a graveside for 3 days. And on April 1st, we celebrate that the tomb is empty because Jesus rose from the dead. But there is no resurrection unless you die. For us, we take that experience symbolically and we practice something that is called water baptism. So if you, and I know some of you, because I heard about it today, if you have made a decision to follow Jesus, to humble yourself, the next step is to be obedient. And the obedience has to do with literally joining Jesus by water baptism. So we bring you, and that picture is from the top, okay? So it's right there. So that implies that you are brought into the water, and the water symbolizes a graveside. So you're placed inside the water. You're brought out of the water, just like this young lady, on a symbolism that when you come out of the water, not only that you have embraced the humble one, which is Jesus, but you have decided to be and walk in humility. So no more of you, no more of me, my thinking, my desires, my drive, my past. It's about Jesus. But now you are walking in, say it with me, obedience. Obedience. Because humble people obey. Prideful people expect others to obey. Tracking? I'm going to say that again. Humble people obey. Prideful people not only disobey, but they expect others to obey. Anyways, here we go. I got to finish. And then this comes into a very special place. This obedience takes Jesus eventually to a death. So the obedience is pricey, and death on a cross. Tonight, what I want to do, I just want to remind you why the cross of Jesus. The cross of Jesus is the experience that allows us to remind ourselves that maybe the problem for most of us, please listen. The problem for most of us, it's not that we are bad people. It's not that we have done crazy things. You know what the problem for most of us is? Is that we think, we have believed, we have grown into simply embrace that all that this world needs, my marriage, my family, my kids, myself, is just a better version of me. So if you're a 2.0, 3.5, some of you are 7.7, I mean, whatever you are on this scale, I need to understand that when Jesus went to a cross, it's because at the cross, the one who knew no sin, for you and I, he became sin. The one who was, the one who remained sinless, and he was perfect. The one who was Lord of the cosmos and everything, for our sake, for you and I, because of our confusion and our sin and our way of thinking, he had to be cursed. And he took upon himself not only death, but the death of a man that was cursed, that embraced and literally absorbed your sin and my sin. And I'm talking about sin that you may not even feel or think that is sin. He's not asking you if you think that you have sin. He's not asking you if you think that you are prideful or disobedient. All that he's saying is, I'm giving you something that you don't know you need. I'm giving you something that you have never thought you needed in your life. And you know why you never thought you needed? It's because you were deaf. You were disconnected from God. And you're sitting in this place and you think that you need it, but you don't want it. See, you don't know Jesus. The way you know Jesus is when you come to him and said, make me humble. The way you come to know you know Jesus is when you are driven by obedience. And eventually you understand that what happened 2,000 years ago on that cross is that he allowed you to be connected to the God of the Scriptures. By removing your curse, him becoming a curse. And today, here's the beauty. Look at me. Here's the beauty. Is that when he died, it wasn't just the price or the ransom being paid, but it was a family member, a brother. His name is Jesus. A brother that make you family. So today, you are my brother, you are my sister. Marcus, you and I, Marcus, have more in common than many skin color like mine in the same language in South Texas who do not know Jesus. Anybody tracking what I'm saying? Because the blood of Jesus has brought us together. And I want you to know that you have the opportunity today to be a part of the family of God.